Well, guys, this is becoming a regular occurrence with me, but once again, I have to apologize for the delay in giving you this video. And this time I have a more legitimate reason than I was bored with the WWE. That was my reason last time for the delay. This time, my original intention was to get a video out to you guys either Monday or Tuesday of this week. Unfortunately, I had some technical issues with my laptop, and it started off with a small problem. The latest version of Office that I tried to download on my computer wouldn't activate, and in contacting Microsoft tech support, it just kept snowballing into a bigger and bigger problem to where I ultimately didn't have a computer for a few days. And the end result was I had to reset Windows 10 after backing up all my data and all of that stuff, and then re-downloading everything on my computer, making sure all the settings were back to where it was originally, and all that other fun stuff. So, yeah, everything's fixed now, but it was a bit of a headache throughout the week, so that's the reason why I didn't get this video out to you sooner. But good news is you're going to get bombarded with videos from me because I'm behind on a lot of things. My latest Star Wars review is coming out. I'm going to be filming that later tonight as well. The review will be the Aftermath trilogy, so you can look forward to that. Also, my latest classic match review will be filmed tonight as well. I'll be talking about Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect from King of the Ring 1993, the semifinals match from the tournament. But we're going to be talking about this video now, and in this video I want to, again, kind of build off what I said last week with WWE being boring and why I prefer other wrestling companies, and ultimately what I want out of pro wrestling, because it is so easy to kind of fall into negativity and just kind of get down on the business as a whole, because I gotta be honest, whenever I mean, the last couple of weeks especially, I've basically skipped SmackDown. I haven't even bothered with it, and I've watched maybe half an hour of Raw, if that. The show's just so boring, and then I read the results, and I still feel like I'm not missing anything. It's, you know, I mean, the main event this week was Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I feel like I've seen that match 9,000 times. It's just, I'm not gonna, you know, take time out of my day off, my Memorial Day, to watch a match that's not that intriguing to me. And that's not a knock on the talents. It's just, I've seen that match at least 24 times. I mean, what am I going to miss if I skip it this time, you know? And it sounds like I didn't miss anything. So, Extreme Rules is actually tomorrow night. I guess I'll try to watch it. I'm not that interested in seeing it. On paper, it's not that bad of a card. It's just that the build-up has been so poor that I just don't care. And that's a major problem right now. But the good news is NXT is still going really well. They're building up some stuff coming out of TakeOver. It looks like Hideo Itami is going to be making a heel turn. Looks like the UK title stuff is going to be more of a presence on the show. They gave Pete Dunne a match on this week's episode. And Tommaso Ciampa gave, I thought, a really good promo. Unfortunately, he's legitimately injured and is going to be out for some time, so that's going to put a delay on the Gargano-Ciampa match down the road, which maybe end up being a good thing to kind of give it more time to simmer. But it's a very interesting story, and when we do ultimately get that match, I'm really looking forward to it. And anybody who saw their match at the Cruiserweight Classic knows that these two are capable of, they can go. And you add, like, this story behind it with these characters and Ciampa being this heel and this intensity behind it, I think it could yield a really, really cool, great match. More good news. I'm getting caught up on the Best of the Super Juniors tournament of New Japan Wrestling. Really good stuff. I should be fully caught up on it by Monday. And then after that, I'll do my top 10 matches for May 2017. But, yeah, really good stuff there from New Japan. I'm really enjoying it. And Lucha Underground came back, much to my delight, and delivered one hell of a show. With Johnny Mundo and the Mac having the All Night Long match, which, for those of you who don't know, All Night Long and Lucha Underground, that's basically an Iron Man match. Having that match for the Lucha Underground title, and they just, for, you know, the entire 1 hour episode was about them, and they just tore it down. It was very entertaining from start to finish. Loved just about every second of it. And by the end of it, you're looking at this match on paper, and I'm like, oh, Mundo's going to retain. There's no way he's dropping the title to the Mac. And by the end of it, I not only thought Mac could win it, I was jumping up and down, hooting and hollering and cheering please let the Mac win, because I got fully invested and I got fully sucked into what I was seeing. And it's so refreshing to have that reaction to something, because it's so easy to watch WWE and just become numb and just, I mean, it's so weird the way WWE presents itself now. It's like they want the fans that like the catchphrases, like the entrances, and clap for the pretty moves, and that's it. And that's all they want, and that's all they're going for. And anything else is just either low-hanging fruit or just easy and simple or just bad, like the This Is Your Life segment on Raw. I did watch that, and that was... people told me it was bad, and when I went back and watched it, I was like, man, wow, that sank like a rock. And poor Alexa Bliss, she had to go out there and try to salvage the whole thing, something that was unsalvageable. But when you watch WWE, specifically Raw and SmackDown, it's easy to kind of get numb to this stuff. And there have been, the last few weeks, I'm sitting there like, why am I even watching this? And then the last 2 weeks, I've almost completely stopped watching. But then I watch something like Lucha Underground, and I watch something like the Best of the Super Juniors tournament, or I watch NXT, which is a WWE product, and I go, that's why I watch it. That's why I enjoy watching wrestling, because of stuff like that. And ultimately, the main topic of this video is going to be what is it that I want out of pro wrestling? As a fan, as a consumer of the product, and as a lifelong fan of the art form, what is it that I want to see out of pro wrestling? And that's different for everybody. It's really up to you what you want out of it. But for me personally, it's a fairly easy question to answer, because I really don't have... I feel like, personally, I'm not asking that much. I really don't, because I'm not the type of guy. I'm not like a Meltzer type. I don't... the star ratings type of stuff doesn't matter to me. Like... major athleticism, whether it be, 450s and shooting star presses or just straight up top-notch technical wrestling, that's all great. And those are all tools that you can use to tell a great story. But that's not going to make me instantly love you just because you can do that. And not going to make me instantly invested in what I'm seeing just because you can do those things. Ultimately, what I want out of pro wrestling, I want it to be able to be sucked into what I'm seeing, to believe what I'm seeing, and to feel emotions while I'm watching it. And that's ultimately what I want. And when I look back on some more recent matches, Sexy Star versus Mariposa from Lucha Underground, that match was brutal, violent, was a perfect capstone to the feud that had been building all season long up to that point, and gave me this wild, violent match with one of the all-time great fist pump fuck yeah moments in the history of pro wrestling, where it was one of those moments when Sexy Star yelled fuck you into the microphone. It was one of those just organic, emotionally driven moments where I jumped out of my chair and just started cheering. It was perfect. I think back to matches like Bayley versus Sasha in Brooklyn. I've made this comparison before. It was like something... It reminded me of the first time I saw Rocky, or the first time I saw The Karate Kid. It had that type of story of this underdog trying to overcome everything and win the championship and ultimately prove all the doubters wrong. And it was a beautifully told story, and it was the simple stuff that made that match work. Just something as simple as Sasha stomping on Bayley's broken hand while having her locked in the bank statement. That was just such a brutal, cringe type of moment in a good way. And you knew who the heel was, you knew who the face was, and I just was, I remember sitting on my couch like it was yesterday and just thinking, man, if Bayley doesn't win this match, I might cry. Because it was a beautifully told story, and it made me feel emotions. And I like to feel emotions when I watch my stories. Whether it be movies, television shows, whatever, I like to feel emotions. Rocky is my favorite movie of all time because it tells a story and has a character. Rocky Balboa might be my favorite fictional character of all time. And it tells a story that gets me emotionally invested and gives me a character that you just fall in love with when you watch the movie. And it really brings those emotions out of me. And even when I watch it today, and I've seen that movie like 400 times. But it's just beautiful. And I like to feel that way about wrestling as well. And even more recently, I'll use a WWE example. Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I said when I reviewed WrestleMania that was the match of the night. It was my favorite match on the show. I don't care if it was only 4.5 minutes long. That was my favorite match of the night. Why was it my favorite match of the night? Because I fully believed that both guys were these built up, unbeatable fucking Broncos, and they just charged at each other the entire match. And it was just them going for knockout shots the entire time. It felt like a big-time heavyweight knockdown, drag-out fight. And it had that type of feel to it. And you look at it like Goldberg and Lesnar, two guys that are, honestly, past their prime, let's be honest. Goldberg's like 50 and Lesnar became a star back in 2002. But it's, it makes you wonder, it's like, what would happen if they gave that type of booking to two young guys? But, or even just one of those guys and made a star out of somebody else, like a Braun Strowman, for example. But my point is, because of the story that they told, and because of the build-up and the way they handled both guys, I fully believed everything I was watching, and the match was exciting, it was nuts, it was just this wonderful adrenaline rush, and by the end of it, and this was towards the end of the show, it was the third to last match of a 7-hour event, 7 hours if you count the pre-show anyway, and I was just like jumping up and down, cheering, and I believed everything I was seeing. I believed that they were trying to fucking murder each other with every knockout shot that they went for. It was great. It was wonderful. It was the most believable match on the card, and it was the easiest one for me to invest into. And that's what I want to see. And now, as I've lined up, Goldberg, Lesnar, Mac and Johnny Mundo, Sexy Star Mariposa, Bayley and Sasha, all very different matches. They're all telling different types of stories. They're all bringing out different emotions in me. Goldberg Lesnar got me excited. Bayley and Sasha was more, touched my heart more and got me on the verge of tears. Sexy Star and Mariposa was like this brutal, like, oh god, this is too violent almost, but I want to watch it because it's great. And had that type of feeling going for it. But all the matches had a babyface that I wanted to see win. They all had a heel that I wanted to see lose. They all had, except for Lesnar Goldberg, for me, because Goldberg was my babyface in that match, but Lesnar needed to win. I'm not saying that, but it was still like, I was kind of like, oh, Goldberg lost, even though he's awesome. Again, I fully, watching that match, I completely forgot, Goldberg's past his prime, Goldberg's limited, he can't go long, blah, 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 all the things that he gets criticized for. For those 4.5, 5 minutes, I completely forgot about that. And I just believed the story that was being presented to me, and I loved it. It was fantastic. And that's the thing. I like versatility in wrestling. I like difference of styles. I don't like everything to be overly formulaic. And I guess this kind of ties into the Rip Rogers, Randy Orton, dive type of thing, where the criticism of indie wrestling, where the matches are very formulaic. And I think some of that criticism is true, to a point. A lot of indie matches are like that, but I'll counter that and argue that the guys that don't do that are the guys that get called up to the main roster and become stars. And they're the guys that are on the indie scene building brands for themselves, build names for themselves, and ultimately make it to the WWE. The Daniel Bryans, the Cesaros, the AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, even though I'm not too big a fan of Samoa Joe's current work, but, he made a name for himself in the indie, and rightfully so. He was great back then. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, all those guys. The cream rises to the top, so I don't think it's fair to, attribute that blanket statement to all of the indie guys. Again, let's be honest here, WWE is about as formulaic as it gets. I could set a stopwatch to a lot of WWE matches. I remember when the Dudley Boys were, and this was even when they were in their prime, I felt like it got to a point where you'd see a 5 to 6 minute Dudley Boy match on Raw every week, and I'm like, I could set a stopwatch to this. I know exactly what they're going to do for the next 5-6 minutes. John Cena, Randy Orton. Randy Orton's about as formulaic as it gets. So it's very weird to me to hear a WWE guy kind of poking fun at the indie scene, but for being formulaic, when I'm like, dude, WWE is the land of formula. It's the land of inorganic, non-natural storytelling. It's just bland as shit, just paint by numbers, and boring, quite honestly. And the stuff that doesn't do that, like the Goldberg-Lesnar match, like the Jericho-Owens feud, that stuff, is good, and I react to it positively. It's just that, unfortunately, nothing right now is really grabbing me on Raw or SmackDown. The best thing Raw had going was Braun Strowman, and he got hurt, unfortunately. But best thing SmackDown has is AJ Styles, but... and AJ Styles is like my favorite wrestler on the planet. It's either him or Okada. I love watching AJ work, but you can only do so much when you're in this system that's very, again, paint by numbers. Nothing interesting is really going on. Everything's just kind of dull and boring. And, you have my favorite wrestler of the planet on one of your shows, and I don't want to watch it. That's a problem. That is a huge problem. And what it comes down to is that nothing is... The stories aren't being well told, and nothing is grabbing me. Nothing is causing me to... or causing me to invest in what I'm seeing. And again, pretty moves aren't going to do it. Catchphrases aren't going to do it. Formulaic paint-by-numbers bullcrap isn't going to do it. You've got to work hard at crafting your stories, providing context to what is being presented. Because how many times have I said that wins and losses don't matter in the WWE? Like, it doesn't matter. Most of the time they just trade wins anyway, and it evens out 50-50, so who cares? There's not enough emphasis on wins and losses actually mattering. I say it with Jinder Mahal. Dude was a jobber, right before going to SmackDown, and then all of a sudden he becomes number one. As like, when he was in that Contenders match, I'm like, how the hell is he in a Contenders match? He's like, what matches did he win to warrant being in a Contenders match? And I'm like, yes, I know it's scripted. I know it's not real, but you're asking me to swallow these really big pills in your story. A lot of your stories don't have middles. That's the problem. You're just jumping from point A to point Z without B through Y in between. And I, as the audience member, has to fucking fill in the blanks. It's ridiculous. I'm like, craft your stories a little bit better. Give Jinder like a winning streak for his first 3 months on SmackDown. Have him win squash matches. Have him win, names over progressively better talents. Don't fucking just give him number one contendership his first or second night in and expect me to buy it. That's ridiculous. If the ratings are any indication, I'm not the only one that feels that way. I keep hearing... It feels like the ratings keep going down for Raw, and they keep setting new records for, like, all-time low ratings, and it's like, okay, it's got to bottom out at some point, right? But there's just nothing going on right there that's interesting. You look at CM Punk and John Cena and the build-up to that match at Money in the Bank 2011, that had, like, one of the most believable storylines in the history of wrestling. It was, everybody got sucked into that. Everybody believed it. You had CM Punk as the hero, whether they designed it that way or not. I remember laughing. It's like, oh, that's cute. They're trying to make Punk the heel. He's not going to be the heel. Sorry, Vince. But it's, the story was outstanding and great, and it was believable and exciting. And I'm not saying that every story needs to be that good, but there's just nothing. I can't honestly think of one thing going on Raw or SmackDown that make me even interested in checking out the shows. Probably, the Fashion Police might be... I say AJ's my favorite wrestler. The Fashion Police might be the second best thing going on in WWE right now, and that's not great enough to make me want to tune into a 2-hour show on Tuesday nights. But yeah, you gotta have that context. You gotta have, the stuff has to mean something. The stories have to be engaging. The characters have to be well written. It's you gotta put some time and care into it. But when I look at something like Lucha Underground, that's batshit crazy, but their characters feel real within the rules of this wild, fantastical universe that they've created here. I believe in these characters. I believe in the stories. Everything feels natural for these characters and for this show. And it's one of the easiest wrestling shows for me to invest in because they don't break their own rules and they just present the most entertaining show possible. And the end result, you get something like you saw on Wednesday night with Johnny Mundo and the Mac, which was a very exciting match. That literally, even when they cheated out on the finish and it ended in a tie, I was jumping up and down in the closing 2 or 3 minutes of that match. And again, it's an hour-long show, and it's been this one match the entire time. And, all the run-ins got me excited. The spot where Mac tied Mundo to the stretcher board and just pushed him down the stairs, that was great. Mundo faking the injury was great. There was just so many great moments. Sexy Star's interference, PJ Black's interference, Ricky Mandel, Son of Havoc waking up the Mac with beer, kind of like Popeye and his spinach. It was wonderful. It was just a wild, entertaining match. Everything made sense. It was a fantastically told story from start to finish. And that same level of excitement just isn't there on Raw and SmackDown right now. And it's one of the reasons I'm not watching. It's just... And actually, Extreme Rules is going to be in Baltimore, which is my neck of the woods. And I'm like, I'm not going to that. Fuck that. I went to Battleground in D.C. The only reason I went to Battleground was because it was like, all right, cool. I get to see AJ Styles in person. And the Shield main event, I'm like, all right, that's kind of neat. I'll see that. But there's nothing. And again, like on paper, the card's not that bad. It's just the stories surrounding them just aren't interesting. I don't see any reason to go out of my way to check it out. But I might anyway because I'm a masochist. But yeah, and actually building off of that, to talk about how like there's different ways you can tell your stories. You look at New Japan, and they're very much sports driven. They are very, wins and losses definitely matter. They always have these great tournaments like the New Japan Cup and Best of the Super Juniors and the Tag Team League, and of course the G1 Climax, which has become one of my, in the last 3 or 4 years or so, has become one of my favorite annual events to check out. It's just always, it feels like the wrestling equivalent of March Madness to me. That's what the G1 Climax has become to me. And even though I'm not going to watch every single match, much like how in March Madness I'm not going to watch every single game, I'm always checking for updates. It's like, all right, when's this match happening? When's that match happening? It's like, oh, who won that one? Okay, cool. So this is the score and these are the standings right now. I treat it very much like March Madness, but that's because New Japan makes their matches matter. And whoever wins gets some kind of a reward, and whoever loses is in trouble and faces the risk of being moved down. So it has that context going for it, and therefore the matches mean something. And when they do big events like Dominion or Wrestle Kingdom, they typically deliver because those matches already matter because they matter. You know that whoever gets the title shot at Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome is going to have to go through this really long process of the G1 Climax and really get a series of wins under his belt to deserve being put in that spot. Whoever wins the Best of the Super Juniors tournament is definitively going to be the number one contender to the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Or at the very least, a top contender and will be made into a star through the series of victories they've obtained throughout the tournament. It's a really good way to get guys over and to make people believe in them. The type of thing that Jinder Mahal did not benefit from. And that's what I'm talking about. When I say that type of stuff, I'm not just saying it to be mean to Jinder. I'm being mean to the booking. It's like, look, you gave us no reason to care about him. That's why I don't care. It's like, come on, guys. It's, great. Yeah, you want to break into the Indian market. I fully understand that. That's fine. Tell a fucking story. That's what I'm asking for. Give me a reason to believe in this guy. And, that's just my take on the matter. But New Japan, going back to them, they do this very sports-oriented, very much straight-up wins and losses matter, and that's it. And all of their matches mean something because of it. Even like the matches that I don't like, which are typically like the 6- and 8-man tags, which feel like throwaways, those are used to build into like people's momentum and to get people interacting to set up a match down the road. And then you get something like Lucha Underground, who has all these different characters with these different motivations and set in this really fantastic, otherworldly universe. Some of them have superpowers. Some of them are like undead. Some of them belong to like a reptile cult. Some of them, you got some of them are stooges for El Jefe. There's a lot of different motivations, a lot of different characters, and some of it is very wacky and bonkers, but it all makes sense within the context of the stories that they're telling. So you can get something like Mil Muertes raising from the dead to go after King Cuerno, and I'll be invested in it. You can get something like Sexy Star being kidnapped by a crazy Mothman, and I want to see her get revenge on the people that tormented her and kidnapped her. And then you get that beautiful payoff that I talked about with the No Mas match. It's all about, whatever you do, whether it be the New Japan route or it be the Lucha Underground route, it's all about committing to your universe, committing to your rules, providing context for everything, and just writing good stories and writing good characters. And that's one thing that NXT does really well, and one of the reasons that NXT frustrates me, because I know the WWE is capable of doing it, and for whatever reason, for Raw and SmackDown, they just choose not to do it. I don't understand it. How are Bayley and Sami Zayn, two of the best baby faces in the world in NXT, and then they get to Raw, and you're kind of like, eh, because eventually they get ruined, and it's just, they don't know how to handle these guys. And it's crazy. It's just insane to think about. And, but yeah, ultimately, that's what I want from pro wrestling. I want to feel emotions. I want to believe and invest in what I'm seeing. And a lot of the times, WWE and SmackDown, it just doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel, like I said, wins and losses don't matter in many of the cases for their matches. Half the time I forget their matches even happen. I've watched entire episodes of Raw and SmackDown where it's just one ear and out the other. It's just a dull show. It's just, both of them, they're just really dull shows. And it's something that they need to work on if they want to get those ratings back up, because it's like, I mean, I'm looking at it right now, it's like, man, they're not up against Monday Night Football. There's no WCW breathing down their necks, and these are, the ratings keep going down. It's like, I mean, yeah, there's the NBA Finals going on, but it's still like, they keep breaking that low record, and it's just, And to be perfectly honest, I'd rather watch Better Call Saul than I would Raw. Better Call Saul is one of the best shows on TV. Because again, it does all of those things that I talk about. It gives us story, it gives us characters with motivations that I care about, and those interactions between the characters mean something. And a show that has very low stakes. I mean, if you think about it, Better Call Saul is not like Game of Thrones. It's not like Walking Dead. It doesn't have anything like otherworldly or fantastic about it. It doesn't have zombies or monsters or dragons or even like major political implications like Game of Thrones does, where, it's all about getting that Iron Throne and controlling Westeros. Nothing like that. It's a show about a bunch of people that go to work. It's like, all right, what did Jimmy do today? And what did Kim do today? And what is Chuck doing today? And what are their jobs and what are they doing? But it's all told in a really good, convincing story where you care about the characters and their interactions are engaging all the way through. I mean, it's lower stakes than Breaking Bad, but it's just as engaging in a lot of ways because it's such a well-written, well-acted, well-produced show. And much better than WWE Raw. Like, significantly better, to like an insulting degree. And I'm saying that as a wrestling fan. It's, yeah. But again, the whole point of this video, and again, what you want out of wrestling is entirely up to you. I'm not saying that my way is right, because everything is, again, it's all about opinions. It's all up to you. And if you're happy just watching whatever WWE gives you on Raw and SmackDown every week, more power to you. Go have fun. But for me personally, I just can't invest in what I'm seeing at all. Another problem is that I know it's going to be Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, so why should I even care? Like, I'm looking at this 5-way match that they're doing at Extreme Rules, and I'm just like, does it matter? The guy who wins is just going to get jobbed out to Lesnar, because I know... Okay, Roman's not going to win, because they're going to save that match for Mania. It's probably... I mean, I read reports today that it was going to be Samoa Joe that was probably going to win. I'm like, yeah, probably. Because he's like, you look at the pecking order of those 5, he's probably like the bottom rung of those. So it's like, yeah, Lesnar will kill him first. And then it'll probably be Strowman at SummerSlam. And then they might use Strowman as a way to work in Bray. And so you'll get that interaction with Lesnar. It might even be like a triple threat, like Bray and Strowman versus Lesnar. Which, whatever. And then it'll probably be Seth at the Royal Rumble. And then Roman at... Well, then where will Finn Balor fit in? I don't know. Maybe Survivor Series. Like, maybe, let's say Rollins is Survivor Series, Balor's Royal Rumble, and then Roman Reigns is WrestleMania, because fuck you. The match that nobody wants. But yeah, it's just so boring right now. And I'm fine, like, knowing the main event ahead of time, as long as, like, that destination point is interesting. Like, I knew back in 97, 98 that it was going to be Michaels and Austin, even before the Royal Rumble. I knew it's like, that has to be the WrestleMania main event, but I didn't care, because they're like, yeah, that's fine. I'm completely fine with them doing that match. The next year at 15, I knew it was going to be Austin and Rock. It had to be. But I'm fine with that. I'm like, cool, great. I'm completely okay with that match. Roman and Brock, it's a babyface. Unless they turn Roman heel, it's not going to work. I keep saying that with Roman. They need to turn the guy heel. And if they do it, great. But, you know, but I have doubts that they will because, you know, it's the John Cena effect. It's like they didn't turn Cena heel when the crowds were shitting on him. They just through sheer blunt force trauma, they just pushed him down our throats until he became one of the top stars in wrestling, whether you liked it or not. That's like that's how that worked out. But yeah, I think I've rambled on long enough in this video. That's kind of the end of it. Again, I'm gonna have a few other videos out to you. My next Star Wars review, classic match review, and my top 10 matches for May 2017. But yeah, like I said, apologize for the delay, but it was technical issues that were completely out of my control. Continue to watch Lucha Underground, or start watching it if you're not already. It's great. I'm so happy to have it back. Keep watching NXT. It's WWE's best show. If you can, follow up on New Japan. It's great. It's wonderful, and Dominion looks like it's going to be great. But that is all I have for you now, so until then, peace out, everybody.